to yet another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football Stash series. This time, I decided to limit it to 3 players so we can go a little bit more in detail on each player and not feel super rushed as we go through each one. With that said, player number 1, let's go. Khalil Shakir. So, of course, like I always say, we want to have every different type of stash on here. We want to have deep stashes, middle stashes, and then, these players who are probably rostered, but still stashes. So Shakir actually had a decent sized breakout in year 2. He played in all 17 regular season games. And over that period of time, decent statistics, much more than I thought before I did this video. I actually moved him up in my Dynasty ranks as part of my preparation for this video. 39 catches, 611 yards, and 2 touchdowns this year, which comes out to a decent 2.3 catches and 35.9 yards per game. Now, that doesn't sound so good, but let's do a comparison side by side to Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis only has 2.6 catches and 43.9 yards per game. So that's Khalil Shakir. Here we have Gabe Davis. So the interesting thing is that Gabe Davis had 81 targets to get that production. Khalil Shakir just had 45. So not that different production on 36 fewer targets. I'll be honest, I feel like the Bills' offense is better without Gabe Davis on the field. We saw it in the wild card round. Davis went out early with an injury, played 23% of snaps, and almost right on cue, Shakir, 77% snap share, scored a touchdown with 3 catches for 31 yards. And that came after his week 18 breakout against the Dolphins, where he had 6 catches for 105 yards. Now, over the last 4 weeks, Khalil Shakir has caught every target that he's received, every single one. Gabe Davis would only dream of that. Additionally, Shakir is a hyper-efficient player. He's gotten a lot done with not that many opportunities this year. He has over 600 yards on 45 targets. That's a lot, if you think about it. Now, I think Shakir has to have a role going forward. He's a young player. It needs to come at the expense of somebody. For me, it would come at the expense of the playing time of Dawson Knox, or you would split out Dalton Kincaid as a wide receiver and run Shakir in the slot in that type of 2 tight end set. Either way, I think I needed to do another examination of Shakir's ranking. I've ranked, rose him in my Dynasty ranks, and I'm interested to see what happens in the playoffs this week. Because if he blows up again on a national stage, I think everyone will start to take notice. Now, second player, Keaton Mitchell. I just don't want people to forget exactly what Mitchell did as a rookie in 2023, how impressive it was. I think it might have gone under the radar. He had a ridiculous college career. He played 3 years in college, an early declare. He averaged 6.5 yards a carry in college. In his final year, 20-year-old season, age 20, year 3, he had the following stat line: 201 carries, 1,452 yards, and 14 rushing touchdowns, plus 27 catches for 252 yards and a touchdown through the air in just 12 games. I hope that it's almost 20 opportunities a game. I hope it puts to rest the idea that Mitchell is not capable of taking a large workload. That's not true. That's just false. He is able to do that. I'm not saying he's going to get used in that role, but he's done it before. So it's possible. Now, we know that Mitchell was undrafted, but he made the Ravens' initial 53-man roster. He started the year on IR. I felt like that was kind of a stash move from the Ravens. Didn't get a role in his first 2 games, and then he suffered an injury setback. But after that, he played really well in the 6 games where he fully participated. 47 carries, 396 yards and 2 touchdowns, and 8 catches for 84 yards in just those 6 games. He averaged, and this is hard to believe almost, 8.4 yards per carry, multiple big plays. Now, I know that Mitchell suffered a torn ACL in week 15. I remember that. I have not forgotten when I made this video. But he turned just 22 years old this week. He's not an old player. Yeah, he'll probably miss the start of next season. But he reminded me, they're not the same player, but he reminded me a little bit of Devon Achane when he was on the field. These impossible efficiency, big plays, but he wasn't drafted. We don't have the sample size. So there are differences. But despite the Ravens' run scheme being amazing, it's not like Gus Edwards and Justice Hill look the same as Keaton Mitchell. They did not. The only thing we've seen that was anything like Keaton Mitchell this year was J.K. Dobbins in week 1 before his injury. J.K. Dobbins looked really good in this scheme. So unfortunately, he had a devastating injury. I don't know, might be career ending. Either way, Mitchell is the type of high upside stash I want to hide on my IR, since he's still IR eligible, throughout the offseason. And I'm very excited to see what he does when he returns from his injury. Now, last one. And I do feel like I spend all my time talking about Packers' young receiving weapons because there's just so many of them. We just got to note this again. In just the 2022 and 2023 NFL drafts, they drafted Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, Luke Musgrave, and Tucker Kraft just in the last 2 years. That doesn't even include Bo Melton. And because of all these other young players, it took multiple injuries for Melton to get a look. He was a 7th-round pick in the 2022 draft. And honestly, his college career at Rutgers was unremarkable. Very unremarkable. There's not much there. But when he was called upon to join the receiver rotation, he's been consistently involved. He closed the regular season playing significant time in the final 4 contests. Over those games, he had 16 catches, 218 yards, and a touchdown, which is an average of 4 catches and 54.5 yards a game. Now, are those super impressive numbers? No. But considering the competition in the receiving corps, it's actually rather impressive. Now, interestingly, even in the playoff victory over the Cowboys, Melton still played 39% of snaps, even though all 6 of those high-end guys were healthy. It just seems like Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love are finding magic in every player on this team. I don't know how they do it, but that's what it feels like. Unfortunately, there's not much of a path for Melton to playing time. I get it. It sucks. But we know that he's a talented player now. We've seen it. It wasn't just one catch. We saw him play well. So he's shown more than most deep dynasty wide receiver stashes. There can always be injuries. There can always be trades. So you want to have talented players on the back of your roster. And in deeper dynasty leagues, if Melton is on waivers, I picked him up in Trade Addicts 8 for an example. He was on waivers there. So if he's on waivers in your league, I would suggest adding him. You never know. Now, if you've liked the video so far, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. That's the best way to get more eyes on my YouTube content, and I appreciate everyone in the audience who's been doing that. I also love hearing your feedback about what you think of the video, format, and all that. Additionally, if you want to support me directly, the best way to do that is to sign up for Patreon. Patreon.com/fantasyadvice. It's in the comments, in the show description, and also in the top right corner up there. And only patrons are allowed to ask advanced questions for the YouTube. I have a few of them, some dynasty trades pulled from the Patreon. So without further ado, let's jump into that. I have a 1 QB roster that's coming off a title win, and I'm young at every position except for running back, where I have Gibbs and a bunch of older running backs. In a situation where you're in a title window, would you be trying to sell off those older RBs for draft capital or just hold on to them since my team is a top contender? My specific running backs are Saquon, Kamara, and Aaron Jones, but mostly just asking as a general strategy question. So as always, it depends on what you can get. So for those super high-end guys like Christian McCaffrey, if I'm getting a first-round startup return, I definitely sell him. Someone like Jonathan Taylor, where they're younger, the return is less, that's more of a hold. But I think it'll help if we just go through these specific examples, because these are 3 very different players. So Saquon Barkley is an easy sell. He turns 27 in February. He's still valued as a high-end dynasty asset, but we are past that point. I don't see Saquon as a cornerstone dynasty asset. He's priced too high to be an older contender buy for me. I'm just not into Saquon Barkley's price. Now, Alvin Kamara, I think, is kind of in between. He's more of a hold. His price has gone up with how good he's been this year. He's someone I think will be fantasy relevant as long as he's on the field. Receiving skills age better than between the tackles rushing. He's outproducing Barkley at a far cheaper price. If you have Kamara, I'm probably holding him in most situations. As for Aaron Jones actually looked really good in playoff week 1. I'm not going to lie. He's even older than Kamara. If he would be the one I would think is more buyable, like, could you, maybe not after this performance, but as people forget, as we get into the offseason, you could send a mid or even a late second for Jones. Rookie fever is a potent drug. I would consider doing that. If you have Jones, unless you're just totally giving up on winning, I would absolutely hold him. Let's move into the next question. So, a couple of trades here. Let's start with this one. 101, 201 in Kyler Murray, or Josh Allen in 304 in Superflex. I love Josh Allen. Josh Allen is my second overall asset in Superflex, but this is a good example of why every player should be available. There's no way that Josh Allen is worth Caleb Williams plus Kyler Murray plus more. He's just not. He's not worth that much. No player is. So I'll take the Kyler Murray side here rather easily. Last one, Superflex tight end premium league. Stroud, JSN in 312, or Hurts, McBride in 205. And he's wondering if should take Hurts and buy the panic. Yes, I would take Hurts in the panic if there's any panic. Hurts and Stroud, they're still essentially equal to me. Maybe I'd slightly lean Stroud, but pretty much equal. In tight end premium, McBride was an absolute star down the stretch. I'd rather have McBride over JSN. Of course, 205 over 312. So rather easily, I would take the Hurts side here. Of course, I appreciate everyone who asked all of those questions. If you like the video, make sure, as I said earlier, to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you thought about the video. If you agree, if you disagree, whatever. And of course, make sure to check out all of my future Dynasty Fantasy Football content that's coming on the channel. We have buys, we have sells, we have more stashes videos, and we're going to soon get into 2024 rookie content. So another thing to be excited for. But until next time, I want to thank everyone for watching, and I'll see you all later. Peace out.